KUAM News Headlines is presented by Calvo's Insurance, a legacy of trust, serving Micronesia since 1938. Matson and the Adahi Tano Program. Cars Plus, home of Guam's first and only lifetime limited powertrain warranty. IP&E, fueling excellence. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it. And King's Restaurants, always open, always local, and serving up favorites for over 40 years.
Coming up on Primetime, a sailor from the USS Theodore Roosevelt has passed away from COVID-19 at Naval Hospital. Plus, heated debate during session on measures aimed at giving the governor more authority during the pandemic, and a pair of point-of-care testing machines have arrived on island.
Hafa and good evening. I'm Adriana Cotero. Before we get to the latest on the efforts with containing COVID, a message from two of our frontline heroes.
We're working hard to keep you safe. Wash your hands. Stay home.
Again, we can't express enough gratitude to all our frontline heroes. Thank you for keeping everyone safe. The bill to add sanctions to the governor's stay-at-home executive order was sent back to committee. Sponsor Speaker Tina Munya Barnes spoke passionately in defense of her measure, while opponents such as Senator Clint Rigel argued that it imposed further restrictions on our civil liberties.
I want to share with you, Madam Speaker, it is to give our island families the liberty to continue to go to the grocery store, the pharmacy, get dinner, but while reducing the risk of being exposed to COVID-19. And the only way to do this is to put measures in place to contain the spread of COVID-19. While I understand in my heart the many concerns, and I also comprehend that simply putting this bill aside would be the best thing to do politically, I would hope that we put our community and our island residents, our people first.
So I think adding any more restrictive measures to that is also difficult for the psyche of the populace as a whole. It makes people feel even more constricted and more confined than they currently are. And I think people need to know that what we're doing is working. I think they need to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think they need to see a clear direction and a clear plan of where we go next from here, not just let's lock it all down, throw away the key, and then we'll figure it out later.
The governor had urged senators to pass a bill giving more teeth to her roadblocks meant to discourage unnecessary travel. She has pledged to continue the measure despite the lack of sanctions. And the Navy has announced the death of a sailor assigned to the USS Theodore Roosevelt. The sailor, who has not yet been identified until his family is notified, passed away on Monday due to COVID-related complications at Naval Hospital, Guam. The sailor initially tested positive on March 30th and was placed in an isolation house on the naval base with 4 other sailors. It was last Thursday on April 9th the sailor was found unresponsive. CPR was administered by fellow sailors and an on-site medical team in the house. The sailor was then transferred to Naval Hospital and moved to the ICU. According to the latest numbers released by the Navy, 585 sailors have tested positive for COVID. 3,921 tested negative, and 4,021 sailors have been moved ashore. Despite a week of low single-digit coronavirus infections, it's no time to celebrate, says the governor in her daily press briefing today. She and Physicians Task Force member Dr. Felix Cabrera cautioned that we must stay the course.
Our clearest example is Singapore, a country about the same geographic size as Guam. While Singapore saw great success in the beginning stages of COVID-19 pandemic, it loosened its restrictions too early. And as of 10 hours ago, they reported 386 new cases in a single day. Despite having a much larger population than ours, this is what happens when we begin to declare victory before we have actually won.
Any discussions on Guam already being past our peak is not only extremely premature, but potentially dangerous. This is especially concerning as there is now growing consensus among the country's experts that COVID-19 has the potential to hit us in waves if we relax our preventative measures too early or too rapidly. Multiple waves, by definition, have multiple peaks. It would be irresponsible for us to believe that we are out of the woods or even close to it.
Dr. Cabrera has projected that the cases won't peak until at least June, although he says FEMA's projections have it by mid-May. And our neighbors in the CNMI received 20,000 coronavirus test kits last night. As Tomas Manglotna reports from Saipan, this is a dramatic shift in the response to containing COVID-19 in the Marianas.
20,000 test kits are now on Saipan.
We'll be working on getting test kits and hopefully start doing some testing in the next couple of days.
CNMI Governor Ralph Torres posting that video from late last night at the airport welcoming its arrival, a monumental shift in local response to COVID-19. Hospital CEO Esther Muñoz says the shipment, which arrived late Monday night, is from South Korea. She tells KUAM that these are rapid test kits. When asked if CNMI residents can expect drive-through testing anytime soon, she says the task force is calling it community-based testing to identify, surveil, and contain.
We are working extremely hard to get everybody tested. Our goal since day one is to test everybody. It's going to take some time, but we're definitely moving in that direction.
National media reports that South Korea is shipping over 600,000 test kits to the U.S. this week at the request of President Donald Trump. Those same reports explaining that FEMA contracted manufacturers in Asia to provide the tests. Muñoz says these are the same testing kits being sent to the United States. In previous reporting, Guam's Public Health Director Linda Donorsi telling KUAM that 5 tests are set aside for the CNMI every day on Guam, in addition to those sent off island. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Tomas Manglotna.
The governor's office says they are expecting 40,000 more test kits later this week for a total of 60,000 test kits acquired for the CNMI. They tell KUAM that this was a locally driven operation by the COVID-19 Task Force and CHCC. We should add that during the governor's daily press briefing, KUAM asked Public Health if a request for the rapid test kits was placed for Guam. And in response, Director Linda Donorsi says her staff is currently looking into it. As for the status of testing capabilities here in Guam, Public Health Director Linda Donorsi announced that 2 new testing machines have arrived to Guam. One will stay at her agency while the other will go to the Guam Memorial Hospital. She described them as point-of-care machines, and the Public Health Lab will start using them tomorrow.
With this Abbott ID Now, they can do one test. If it's a positive test, it'll be read within 5 minutes. If it's a negative result, it'll be ready within 13 to 15 minutes. And right now we have about 176 cartridges. We were given a little bit more, but we use some of that to calibrate and validate the machine.
Donorsi adds they are also waiting for over 4,000 test kits that can be run through what's called a Gene Expert, which is already in Public Health's lab. Additionally, commercial testing is also available through DLS, and these considered will help expedite and boost testing capabilities. Dr. Hal Wynn of the Governor's Physician Advisory Group says Guam has to keep its guard up because, as proven by the most recent COVID-19 fatalities of an elderly woman and a Navy sailor, the virus can take your life quickly and it does not discriminate. Chris Barnett has more.
Guam's 5th COVID-19 casualty, an elderly woman who passed away Saturday after being admitted to Guam Memorial Hospital the day before she died. Dr. Hoa Wen of the Governor's Physicians Advisory Council tells KUAM News that shows how quickly COVID can take you, especially our most vulnerable, Wanumku, many of whom have existing medical conditions that weaken their ability to fend off the coronavirus.
She passed really quick. When she hit the front door, and she passed the next day. And again, you know, the elderly have a very high mortality rate. This thing can basically destroy your lung in a matter of minutes. You know, you can be stable and then you just crash. And then you can be in the best hospital in California. You're still it's going to happen. You're going to pass away. She probably have a very bad infection, and either she waited a bit too long at home, but it's a lot of factors that, you know, that caused her to pass away so quickly.
While Public Health advises those who may think they have COVID to stay home and self-isolate, contacting their doctor when they start to exhibit symptoms, Dr. Wen said it's important for people in this situation to know when to call their doctor.
I would tell patients, if you're coughing and you have a hard time talking to your relative, you can't finish a sentence, it's time to go in. You know, that's the key. That you can talk to me in a full sentence, okay, but if you start take say a few words, take a deep breath, or you can't breathe, it's not time to stay home. It's time to head to the emergency room.
The doctor also warns that the public should not read too much into days when public health COVID-19 testing yields no positive case results.
Those numbers really don't mean much. Really, don't put your guard down because we all keep our finger crossed that's a true representation. But it's really hard to tell with this virus. So we still have to be cautious and do not put our guard down. If we are beating the virus, then we got to continue to do what we do.
And while the governor's road closures / checkpoints have definitely rubbed some people the wrong way, Dr. Wen says it's not about the governor's authority, it's about keeping the public safe.
I'm really happy to see the roadblock. I know a lot of people don't like it, but what I tell you, this would be a long time ago, is to keep people at home. I waited in line, from about 20 minutes yesterday, but that's just like you go to the airport through TSA. It keep you safe, and that's what the roadblock's all about.
For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports.
Governor Lou Leon Guerrero announced today that up to 20 local businesses were approved for economic injury grants of up to $20,000. With more applications being processed, she added the Small Business Administration has also notified her that 94 businesses on Guam and in the CNMI have qualified for more than $20 million under the Paycheck Protection Program.
This means that 75% of these monies, or about $15 million, must be spent on maintaining private sector payroll, including health and retirement benefits or rehiring previously laid off employees.
The governor adds this is just the first batch of approval. She urges the business community to take advantage of these programs to keep people employed as Guam waits for the other federal stimulus payments and programs. And we've been talking about this for a while now, and the Department of Public Health confirms it has seen a surge of new applications for public assistance. Sabrina Salas-Montanani has more on what you need to know to better prepare to submit an application.
Within a matter of 2 weeks.
Currently, within this April, up to, I guess, last week, it's 423.
Division of Public Welfare Administrator Tess Archangel confirms the phones have been ringing off the hook.
Just one day, we received 400-some calls.
It's a rippling effect of the COVID crisis. The Department of Labor estimating at least 38,000 island residents will file a claim for federal unemployment assistance. Thousands have lined up for GDOE's free grab-and-go meal program. Non-government organizations like Catholic Social Services and Salvation Army seeing new pleas for help. The governor just last week announced that at least $11 million will be advanced in local funds to pay for CARES Act stimulus checks, equating to about 10,000 island residents who made less than $10,000 in tax year 2018. With federal stimulus checks still weeks away, island residents have been urged to hang on and file for public assistance.
They just have to submit an application.
Applications can be found on dphss.guam.gov, but in order to qualify, you have to submit the required documents to be eligible, and the list is quite lengthy. Some of the required documents include a valid ID, social security numbers for each household member, current check stubs, letters of termination or resignation, deductible expenses, real property tax statements, and legal guardianship documents, to name a few. Once the application is submitted, the applicant is assigned a caseworker for an interview to be conducted. Caseworkers are tasked with ensuring the paperwork is complete and then have to verify the information. Archangel admits there have been delays in the processing.
I can ask the caseworkers what are mostly the documents that they are sending, but we don't track what those documents are. Like an example, if they are unemployed, we have a listing from Department of Labor of companies that laid off or with reduced hours. Our caseworkers contact them, so it's not an easy turnaround, so they still have to verify. So even though we have a list, we have to call, of course, or email the company, and then depends on their response.
Yeah, I'm looking at
We're
some
trying
of the...
to help the client.
Yeah.
And we have a list of those businesses. It's 400 some.
Despite the surge of new applicants, Archangel and her team of 20 caseworkers are doing the best they can.
They work Saturday. They call them on Saturday. So They work in the evening to process those cases and call those clients and email the employers to get those information that they need.
If you have questions about how to apply for public assistance, you're urged to call the following numbers for residents who live in the North. The numbers are 635-7488, 7484, 79, and 7396, as well as 7429. Residents in southern Guam are asked to call 828-7542